Hello and thanks for joining us on Arirang News. We start our coverage from the Blue House. President Lee Jae-myung is hosting his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron as we speak for talks on key areas of cooperation including trade, artificial intelligence, space technology, and culture. For more, our correspondent Yoon Jung-min is on the line for us. Jung-min, walk us through.
Eunji, the French first couple were given a red carpet welcome this morning by their South Korean counterparts here at the Blue House. The leaders inspected the traditional honor guard and they were all smiles when greeted by a group of children. Emmanuel Macron signed a guest book, and the talks will be followed by the signing of MOUs and a joint press conference. On this occasion, the leaders plan to upgrade the bilateral comprehensive partnership, which was forged in 2004, to a global strategic partnership. Seoul sees a growing need to strengthen strategic communication with France amid global uncertainties. The Blue House says it seeks a partnership with Paris that looks forward toward the future. France is a permanent member of the UN Security Council and this year's host of the G7 summit. Today's meeting also focused on bolstering bilateral ties, building upon the 140th anniversary of the Korean-French diplomatic relations. This afternoon, President Lee Jae-myung will host his state guest for lunch. I hear key business leaders and celebrities representing the Korea-France cultural exchange will join the lunch, including Felix from K-pop group Stray Kids. Unique Korean dishes will be served, representing harmony and friendship between the two countries. President Macron is on a two-day state visit to South Korea, having concluded his trip to Japan. It's his first visit to Korea since taking office. Back to you, Eunji.
Right, we'll have to see how that meeting plays out. Thank you for that, Jung-min. U.S. President Donald Trump has confirmed a U.S. airstrike that destroyed a major bridge near Tehran, warning there will be more to follow if a settlement is not reached. But Iran vowed to fight back and says strikes on civilian infrastructure would not force Tehran to surrender. Our Kim Bo-kyung has the details.
A day after U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to bomb Iran back to the Stone Age, he claimed responsibility for destroying Iran's largest bridge. Trump published footage showing the under-construction bridge between Tehran and Karaj collapsing on Thursday local time and warned there would be more to follow if a settlement is not reached. He added that Iran must come to the negotiating table before it is too late and before any chance of becoming a great nation again is completely gone. 8 people were killed and 95 wounded in the airstrike on the bridge, according to the Iranian media. In response to the attack, the Iranian military designated 8 bridges located in Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Abu Dhabi, and Jordan as potential targets for retaliation. And Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi posted on X saying strikes on civilian infrastructure would not force Iran to surrender, but only convey the defeat and moral collapse of an enemy in disarray. The strike on Iran's largest bridge comes after Trump addressed at the White House on Thursday, where he warned Washington will intensify strikes over Tehran with extreme force for over the next 2 to 3 weeks, making it go back to the Stone Age. Meanwhile, diplomats from more than 40 countries, including South Korea, held a virtual meeting on Thursday where they agreed to explore using sanctions to pressure Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. The representatives strongly condemned Iran for hijacking the international maritime route and holding the global economy hostage. They agreed to increase pressure through the UN and come up with sanctions to bear down on Iran if the strait remains closed. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Iran is moving to tighten oversight of the Strait of Hormuz with the drafting of a new joint navigation regime with Oman. The move comes as Iran claims it struck U.S.-linked steel and aluminum facilities across the Middle East. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
Iran is moving closer to introducing a new system to oversee maritime traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, a critical artery for global energy supplies. Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister Qasem Gharibabadi said Thursday that Tehran has nearly completed the first draft of a new navigation regime, which would be implemented in coordination with Oman. Under the proposal, Iran and Oman would jointly supervise ship movements through the strait. Iranian officials say the plan is designed to ensure safe passage and improve services for vessels, not to impose restrictions. Still, the move could expand Tehran's influence over one of the world's most strategically important shipping routes, which handles a significant share of global oil and gas flows. Traffic through the strait has already declined sharply amid the ongoing conflict involving Iran, the United States, and Israel, prompting some countries to consider alternative routes. Meanwhile, tensions are escalating beyond the waterway. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps said Thursday it carried out attacks on U.S.-linked steel and aluminum facilities across the Middle East. According to Iranian state media, the strikes are part of what Tehran calls the 90th phase of Operation True Promise, targeting sites tied to American capital and technology. Possible locations include facilities in Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain, as the extent of the damage has not been independently confirmed. The reported attacks come as two of Iran's largest steel producers halted operations following repeated airstrikes by the U.S. and Israel last week. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
A senior European Parliament lawmaker is calling South Korea a key partner for Europe as both sides face a more volatile security environment. Our Oh Soo-young sat down with him upon his visit to Seoul.
Brussels sees Seoul as one of its most important partners and allies, aligned strategically and in terms of values. That's according to David McAllister, chair of the European Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee, who is visiting South Korea and Japan this week, leading a 7-member delegation.
And with our visit, we would like to underline how much we appreciate, how much we value the strategic partnership with the Republic of Korea. South Korea is one of our most important bilateral partners and allies in the world.
The trip comes as tensions around Iran and the Strait of Hormuz raise concerns over shipping, supply chains and energy flows for Korea and Europe alike.
We believe in the freedom of navigation, and this includes the free passage through the Strait of Hormuz, and the effects are just as immense for South Korea as they are for Europe, so we're in this together.
The Middle East situation also comes at a time when many countries are moving to build greater strategic autonomy, meaning the ability to act more independently on defence and security. For Europe, that means higher defence spending and capability building, while maintaining close ties with Washington.
When it comes to security and defence, for instance, we need to be more on equal footing with the US within NATO. That's why we are stepping up our investments in our own security and defence. It's about strengthening the European pillar within NATO.
That shift is also opening space for more practical cooperation with South Korea.
So there's also potential for the Korean defence industry in Europe in the upcoming years when we are working step by step in establishing the European Defence Union, which a major component is, of course, that we step up our own European defence industry, but we also will continue to import excellent products from like-minded partners, including Korea.
Looking ahead, McAllister pointed to further areas for cooperation, from digital and security partnerships to joint research, with Korea as the first Asian country associated with the EU's Horizon programme. McAllister met with Deputy Foreign Minister Chung Eui on Wednesday. Seoul's foreign ministry says the two sides noted that bilateral ties have developed across a wide range of areas, from the economy and trade to security, defence and people-to-people exchanges. They also discussed the situation on the Korean Peninsula, in Ukraine and in the Middle East, agreeing on the need to continue close communication at all levels going forward. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Washington announced a new tariff policy on Thursday with a flat 25% duty on products containing significant amounts of steel, aluminum, or copper. The change replaces the previous system, which applied tariffs of up to 50% based on metal content. The new rule instead applies a uniform rate to the total price of finished goods. The measure is expected to affect South Korean exporters of home appliances, including washing machines and refrigerators. President Trump signed a proclamation formalizing the policy, which targets products with metal content above 15% by weight. Products with 15% or less will be exempt from the tariff. And as we head into the first weekend of April, South Korea's cherry blossom season is officially here. To capture Seoul in its brilliant shades of pink and white, we have our culture correspondent Jung Hye-rim live from Yeouido. So Hye-rim, how is it looking there at the moment?
It's a beautiful afternoon, Eunji. Although we have some cloudy skies, the flowers here at Yeouido are shining brighter than ever. Friday marks the first day of one of Seoul's largest cherry blossom festivals, and we can already see hundreds of visitors to the area. Blossoms opened in Seoul on March 29th, which is 6 days earlier than last year. This early arrival is down to the unseasonably warm temperatures we've been having lately. Since Yeouido is the mecca for Korea's finance and office sectors, the streets are also currently flooded with workers stepping out from their buildings during lunchtime for a walk under the blossoms. Everyone seems to be enjoying the start of the spring. Let's take a listen.
We come here every year, but I took the day off today specifically to spend time with my second child while the oldest is at school. Seeing how much my little one is enjoying the flowers makes it all worth it for us too.
This is my daughter and my son. Yeah, this is our first time here in Korea. The cherry blossom is so amazing.
My friends from my academy and I finally found the time to come out here together. Seeing the flowers like this feels extra special.
Well, Hye-rim, that certainly sounds like everyone is having a great time. What else can we expect during the festivals?
That's right, Eunji. So as I mentioned earlier, the flowers bloomed early this year and are in full bloom right now. This peak is expected to hold steady through this weekend. This year, visitors can enjoy much more than just the flowers. The festival is split into 4 themed gardens, ranging from street circus acts to gourmet food booths and beautiful photo zones. So there's really something here for everyone to enjoy. One final tip for visitors who also want to enjoy the scene: traffic is fully restricted on nearby roads from today until next Wednesday, April 8th. So if you're coming down to enjoy the art and food, I highly recommend using public transport. That's all I have from Yeouido. Back to you, Eunji. Have a great weekend.
All right, Hye-rim, thank you for that report. We appreciate it. BTS released a deluxe LP version of their album Arirang on Friday, featuring a brand new track titled Come Over. Their agency Big Hit Music said the vinyl edition includes all 14 tracks from the group's 5th studio album, along with the exclusive new song Come Over, which will only be available on the LP. Described as a blend of a stadium anthem and pop song, the new track is dedicated to BTS global fan base ARMY. BTS member Suga took part in producing the track, while RM and J-Hope contributed to the songwriting. The global recognition of Hangang's We Do Not Part at the National Book Critics Circle Awards has renewed international attention to the historical tragedy at the heart of the novel, the Jeju 4-3 incident in 1948, marking a meaningful encounter with its English translator ahead of the commemoration. Our Jo Young-eun tells us more.
The growing recognition of the Hangang novel We Do Not Part marks a significant moment, as it is one of the first Korean literary works to introduce the Jeju 4-3 incident to a broad international readership. Translator Paige-Ania Morris spoke about the meaning of conveying this history to readers around the world and the significance of the Jeju 4-3 incidents from a translator's perspective.
I think part of the translation work is also kind of joining the writer in this mission of making sure that these stories are not erased, or they don't continue to be erased and they don't end up forgotten.
The Jeju 4-3 incident dates back to 1948, when protests against the division of the Korean peninsula were met with a brutal crackdown by military and police forces, resulting in the death of around 30,000 people, more than 10% of Jeju's population at the time. Morris explains that through the novel, American readers have begun to challenge the notion that such events are distant.
Seeing that readers are connecting it to their own lives and also just having a lot of empathy for what happened on Jeju, I think it's really powerful, and it speaks to just how connected we all are.
She added that translating the story for a global audience presents unique challenges, as many readers may not immediately understand certain terms. She explained that the translation sought to convey certain meanings as clearly as possible, since some terms are often unfamiliar not only to international readers, but even to many Koreans today.
At the time that I first encountered any mention of this incident, I was honestly afraid to look further into it and kind of afraid of what I would learn and what I would see.
Her process involved extensive archival research, including reviewing video footage and articles mentioned in the novel, in order to vividly bring those scenes to life. Moore says she has been both happy and humbled by the global response to the novel, particularly the positive reception among English-speaking readers.
Incredible world of Hangang's writing, a lot of her writing dealing with these historical moments that would otherwise have been kind of forgotten or swept aside or covered up or kind of limited just to Korean readers.
조영은, 아리랑 뉴스.
This is The World Now, bringing you everything you need to know from around the globe. U.S. President Donald Trump has fired Attorney General Pam Bondi. The sacking ends a tenure marked by controversy over the Jeffrey Epstein files and growing White House frustration over what Trump saw as Bondi's failure to move fast enough against his political opponents. Trump on Thursday appointed former personal lawyer and current Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche as acting Attorney General. He praised Bondi in a social media post as a great American patriot while announcing her move to the private sector. Bondi's firing follows months of tension as Trump repeatedly told her he was unhappy with her performance. The Epstein files drove the final blow. After the Justice Department declared the case closed in July and released roughly 3 million pages, bipartisan backlash forced a new law requiring near total disclosure, but lawmakers continued to slam redactions. Bondi was set to testify before the House Oversight Committee on April 14th. In the latest purge of the Pentagon senior leadership, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has fired Army Chief of Staff General Randy George, cutting short a 4-year term with more than a year remaining. The Pentagon on Thursday confirmed George's immediate retirement with no explanation. This comes despite thousands of U.S. Army soldiers from the elite 82nd Airborne Division being deployed to the Middle East for operations against Iran. General Christopher Lanieve, Hegseth's former military aide and current Army Vice Chief of Staff, steps in as acting Army Chief. George's removal is part of a sweeping shakeup Hegseth has driven across all Pentagon leadership levels, including the firings of the Joint Chiefs Chairman, the Chief of Naval Operations, and the Air Force Vice Chief of Staff. The UN Security Council is set to vote Friday on a resolution led by Bahrain to protect commercial shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, where traffic has all but halted due to conflict with Iran. Diplomats say the measure would authorize all defensive means necessary, though China and Russia have voiced strong opposition. China's UN envoy warned that any authorization of force would lead to further escalation. Bahrain's former minister urged a unified council response, calling Iran's control of navigation unlawful and unjustified. The strait has been effectively closed to commercial traffic since the U.S. and Israel began strikes on Iran in late February, which caused a surge in global oil prices. NASA's Artemis II crew received clearance on Thursday to fire its engines, leave the Earth's orbit, and head for the moon. But before that, they had to repair the Orion's capsule's malfunctioning toilet. Astronaut Christina Koch led the repair after the so-called lunar loo failed to work. They now head for a lunar fly-around, which will be the first human trip around the moon since Apollo 17 in 1972. Chu Ji-han, Arirang News.
Streets are now lined with fully bloomed cherry blossoms, painting everything in soft shades of pink. But if you're heading out to enjoy them, make sure to keep a face mask handy. Ultrafine dust levels are forecast to be in a bad range in most parts of Korea, with western regions forecast to see persistent dust all day today. And you may want to plan your outing sooner rather than later. Rain is on the way nationwide from tonight through tomorrow afternoon. Rain will start from Jeju this evening, and it could come down heavily in southern parts of Korea. Jeju Island and South Coast could see 30 to 80 millimeters of rainfall. And this afternoon, Seoul will be getting up to 20 degrees Celsius, Daegu topping out at 22 degrees. Then rain is expected in Seoul tomorrow through lunchtime, followed by another band of rain next Monday morning. So please take the rainy weather into account and catch the spring moment while you can.
That's all we have for today's noon edition of Arirang News. Thank you for watching. We'll be back soon with our special edition of Arirang News on the joint press conference between President Lee Jae-myung and France President Emmanuel Macron. Stay tuned.